So latest update on Chairman Wontumi plea bargain at a court. A man who quite said Obetumi ne Attorney General at na table so na enkomotwetwe akoso na chese plea bargain no akoso court share omo data chese omo finalize omo plea bargain na Chairman Wontumi ekokopie mu ewo court ema osanso edekoto court nanim say sa plea bargain na data odi kan de ma omo no date ne de emu beye den e de amom because enkomotwetwe no eda so ekoso a ese court no ehwe na o grant omo anase o extend date na omo de beye den omo de beye plea bargain na wi abusua asemi o de kodwane to a court e ma court nso ehwehwe ma bisa Attorney General say asema Chairman Wontumi ene ne lawyers na ka no no kre Attorney General gitum say ye enkomotwetwe na ekoso ntino enka court ne hwe na omo extended date ni nyede emfama omo na busua finally court no grant Chairman Wontumi wa extending the date no e the amana right now no on the 27th of July abusua 27 July say Chairman Wontumi plea bargain na koso no say omo tumi wi court no ama omo sa ultimatum na right now Chairman Wontumi and the lawyers no court no agi atum say why extended date no e the amamo omo by 27th of July abusua say omo wi plea bargain deal na sisi Chairman Wontumi ye be pese be makwa akopie mo court no makwa akotie ensme course na ansa na ye be kono Ghana ha open computer papa and a laptop papa na we use Abura periodic computers and accessories ho and na obenya o laptop papa na we use the location enye ra kwan o Kumasi Bukrum Estates Eli friend number ya egu screen ya say 0247030108 and I say 0597942133 periodic computers and accessories ho and I'll be now a laptop papa na we use.
Now, lawyers of MPP Ashanti Region Chairman Bernard Nchibwesiakon, also known as Wontumi, say they remain hopeful in the pending pending plea negotiation with the Attorney General regarding the Exim Bank fraud case. Chairman Wontumi and two others, including his firm, are facing charges of defrauding by false pretense, money laundering, authoring forged documents, including an altered receipt, and intentionally causing financial loss to a public institution exceeding 30 million cedis. He initially pleaded not guilty, but subsequently initiated a plea bargain after urging his lawyers to write to the AG. In court on Monday, the prosecution prayed for an adjournment to finalize the plea negotiations.
Chairman, your move the other time, touching the floor and then kissing it, brought a lot of conversations. What's your view on that?
We went to the court to announce what is happening on the negotiation table. We informed the court that we have not come to a conclusion and therefore we needed more time to bring the discussion to a close. So the court adjourned the matter to 27th of July for us to come to the court, hopefully to announce plea agreement. And that will be the end of this matter, if we get to that. So for now, the matter has been adjourned to 27th.
But Council, how are negotiations looking like so far?
We've tabled the proposal, it's being considered. There has been a counter proposal, so we are discussing. So I'm very hopeful that at the close of the term, as announced, we will have come to a close. So we are on it.
In court, he's joining us pretty shortly, just in a tad, just a bit of technical challenges, right, in terms of being able to establish that connection with Lord Iduasare. But we'll seek to do that for you shortly, and then we can get a bit more in terms of details from the courtroom as well. Lord, if you can hear me, let's start off first with Wontumi, and then we come to Wahab, right? So they were to appear before the courts today and then provide updates as to where they are with respect to the plea deal. what transpired in court and what happens from here?
Right, Marina. And so, like you stated, Wontumi's lawyers were supposed to meet the prosecution and then go on with the plea negotiation. Well, in court today, a principal state attorney informed the court that the plea negotiation is still ongoing, but they actually would need another adjournment. Now, know this, they were given a 30-day window to complete the negotiation. The principal state attorney indicates that so far they've exhausted about 14 days, and so they have roughly 16 days, but they are not done with the negotiation, and so they would want an adjournment in order to complete this plea bargain negotiation. So as we speak, the case has been adjourned to July 27 for them to finalize this plea negotiation between Wontumi's lawyers and then the prosecution, Marina.
And we heard from Wontumi's lawyers. What about the AG side as well? They agree with the extension. They also speak to the fact that things are proceeding as expected.
Well, they are a bit tight-lipped on that development, except to say that yes, the negotiations are still ongoing. In fact, it was the principal state attorney who asked for the adjournment in order to finalize this development, for which the Wontumi's lawyers briefly, or should I say, accepted or admitted and affirmed to the court that yes, that is where they are with the case. Like you heard, and the appeal could be said that they have indeed tabled what they are expecting, and so they are still, once a better way, drawing, and we'll see how things will pan out once the negotiation as it's done, and then we'll know where Wontumi stands as far as the plea bargain negotiation stands.
A legal battle is brewing within the courts over the BNI's arrest of former Bufferstock CEO Abdul Hanan. Godfred Dame, who's lawyer for Abdul Wahab Aludiba, says he will cite the Attorney General's office and the Bureau of National Investigation for contempt after he was arrested, denying him the chance to attend medical treatment in the UK after a court had granted him leave to do so. Now, according to the AG, the arrest is justified by the attempt by Hanan to empty his frozen account, an allegation which has been vehemently opposed by Dame. The legal battle, a direct gauntlet to the current AG to prove attempts of a withdrawal by Hanan. Now, let's show you a bit more from this. There's a bit more to this issue in regards to, what we heard from the AG's office, the response, and then where we are today. What are we learning? So, like you mentioned, it's been quite a back and forth from this weekend as to the basis for his arrest and whether or not it is justified. That's the argument which is being made, and that is what the former Attorney General says he's taken to the court, citing for contempt, also arguing, amongst many other things, abuse of his rights. That's the rights of his client. And so we start off from the case which Mr. Hanan and his wife are answering for. Now, in that case, he sought leave of the court to, amongst many other things, seek medical treatment in London. Now, we woke up to this particular post from the Attorney General seeking to explain that an arrest had been made and providing the justification for it. Now, this in verbatim, this is what the Deputy Attorney General says, that Mr. Aludiba, who is currently standing trial for stealing and causing financial loss to the Republic, was granted leave by the High Court to travel to the United Kingdom for a few days in search of that medical treatment. Now, the Attorney General will on Monday seek a review of the court order granting Aludiba travel leave. Now, also, the additional detail is that he had been arrested pending his attempts to empty the bank accounts. Then the former Attorney General comes in pretty strongly and says that the attention has been drawn to that Facebook post purporting to justify an unlawful arrest of Abdul Wahab, despite a High Court order which was granting him the permit to travel. Now, they say that they provide a bit more in terms of details as to the reasoning of the court, who sat for the hearing, amongst many other things. And so I'm just going to skip that because that was a Court of Appeal judge sitting in a High Court who granted that request. Now, they say that the claim that their client tried to fraudulently empty his frozen account
is false. They challenge the Deputy AG to prove any withdrawal since the court order, and that no valid court order currently freezes their client's account. The freeze followed his 2025 arrest, but charges were withdrawn on the 5th of May 2026, lapsing all bail and freezing orders from that case. They say, and we've been hearing, that they will file a contempt of court proceedings against the Attorney General's office and then the BNI director because they effected that arrest, amongst many other things. But we know that Mr. Hanan is on trial for a number of things, for stealing and causing financial loss to the state running into tens of millions of cedis. Also, prosecutors allege he diverted over 50 million cedis in terms of funds for the National Food Buffer Stock Company Limited through companies linked to him and his wife with some accounts at Republic Bank's Laboni branch. Now, at the heart of this is the freeze order and the questions in relation to it as to whether or not, and if I take you back, the argument by the former Attorney General that no valid order currently freezes their client's account and that the freeze followed his 2025 arrest, but charges were withdrawn on the 5th of May. Now, we've been combing through Iyoko's legislation, and sections 38 specifically speak to the freezing of assets involving a person under investigation. Now, what the legislation says, without recourse to any other court order which will set aside that freeze, suggests the freeze of the asset lasts for 12 months, pending a variation is set aside or a revocation. And he also suggests that 38.2, to be specific, B, suggests A and B, suggests that of the many things, a person who is under investigation, Iyoko can move to have those assets frozen. And so it begs the question whether or not the assets continue to remain frozen, because the former AG makes the argument that per their knowledge, no court order exists. But there are others who are arguing that, look, if you look at the Iyoko legislation without recourse to any specific court order setting that aside, then the freeze order could persist. And that's one of the many legal battles which is expected to come up strongly in court. We have our men in court who are monitoring developments there for us, and we'll seek to connect with them as and when and bring you details as to exactly what's panning out at courts. But we're just going to stay in court for you a while longer as we try and connect with my colleague, Lord Eduasare, who's been monitoring not just this case, right? Because we took you to court initially in relation to Wontumi and his plea bargain agreements. They were to return to the court for a determination as to whether or not progress had been made in that respect as well. And then we know that contempt charges, like Godfrey Dami says, will be slapped on the Attorney General and then the BNI for the arrest of Abdul Wahab Aludiba. So two separate pending cases in court. We're seeking to establish connection with my colleague, Lord Eduasare, who's in court for us, so that we can ascertain really the developments. But as we have it, the conversations are continuing, the questions are being asked, and the basis being suggested is that until, particularly in the case of Abdul Wahab, who is standing trial, until a specific order comes into place, then we are at a loss as to whether or not a freeze order exists. But remember, in October was when the Attorney General, Dr. Dominic Ayeni, announced that the assets of Abdul Wahab and his wife had been frozen with specific reference to certain bank accounts and what others, handbags and vehicles and other assets, all frozen as part of Iyoko investigation. And I was talking to you about going to section 38 of the Iyoko Act, which speaks directly to asset freezes amongst many other things. So I'm going to take you to Lord right now, and then he will provide us with a bit more in terms of details, right? in terms of the details as to a development from the Lord is our man. Let's switch to Abdul Wahab, because we know that there's been quite the development from this weekend. His arrest and allegations of not being able to get access to him by his lawyers. The former Attorney General, Godfred Dame, who is counsel for him, says that, look, he's going to file contempt charges against the AG and then the BNI in relation to his arrest. What more are we learning? Is that a case which is playing out in courts today?
So, Marina, surprisingly, that case was actually supposed to have been heard at the Specialized Courts, Criminal Court 3, presided over by Justice Ashiponga. But when we got to court today, rather it was the Kwabena Edubuahin case, the former director of the NSB case, which was being heard. We found out that indeed the former Attorney General has filed his processes, but the Deputy Attorney General, the Attorney General, is yet to file his response to that. In fact, the Deputy Attorney General has not been in court today for all the cases that I have attended so far. It's hard to tell exactly where he is right now, but from what indication and what we have learned, the processes haven't been filed from the prosecution or the Attorney General's side, and so we are still surveying and then observing how things will pan out to see if indeed that case will even come up in court in the first place, because what we're hearing was that if anything at all, the case should have been heard in the morning, but from the morning 9:30 till now, nothing of the sort has been in court so far. I've been picking a few things that, yes, they are awaiting the filing from the prosecution or with the Deputy Attorney General's side, and then we'll see how things will pan out as far as the former NAFCO boss situation is concerned.
All right. Since you mentioned the former Signals Bureau boss case, rather, what is the update on that in terms of progress?
Well, the prosecution's fourth witness, the investigator from the Iyoko, Marshal Cromwell, he completed his evidence in chief, and so in fact, the former National Signals Bureau Director, Kwabena Edubuahin's lawyers, led by what's his name, he has started the cross-examination of Cromwell, and so as I speak to you, Marina, the cross-examination is ongoing, still at the same court that Wahab's case should have been heard. And so as I speak to you, there's cross-examination ongoing at the court regarding the former NSB director's case, Marina.
Right then. Lord, I appreciate those details. That's my colleague, Lord Iduasare, providing a bit more in terms of details for us from the court. And so we've been there on Abdul Wahab, where we understand now that the former Attorney General, Godfred Yeboah-Dame, has filed his processes. Lord tells us that at least they've gotten word that that has come through. The expectation is that the Deputy Attorney General, the present Attorney General, will file a response, and then some headway will be made. And with respect to Wontumi as well, the court has granted an order for an extension, and so it's been adjourned, for which close of dates, there should be some headway made as well with respect to that plea bargain agreement between Wontumi and the state.
Let's head down now on the back of the floods, because residents of a house that was completely flooded at Mallam in the Greater Accra region are still struggling to cope with the traumatic experience exactly a week after a torrential downpour brought parts of the capital to standstill. A video of the flooded house located behind the Mallam transport station went viral. In this video, a woman is heard making a passionate appeal for urgent rescue to save the occupants, some of whom were forced to swim to safety. Now, Christian Yale has visited this spot to assess the situation there. He comes through with some live pictures, which you have seen already. Christian, tell us a bit more about what you have observed with regards to this neighborhood and the residents there.
I've observed, Kamini, for instance, that when you get to the neighborhood here, as you see in this shot, there are heaps of refuse dotted all over the place. And to just reiterate that this is an area, when you get to Mallam, there is a lorry station. And so just behind the lorry station, there is actually a Melcom shop which is also just around opposite the lorry station. And so just behind it, which is actually a low-lying area, Kemini, it's a low-lying area. So all the way from the top where you have the station and the Malcolm shop, all the way coming down here, every house in this area is in the low-lying section. So when it rains, the flood waters move all the way from the top over there, wash all the way down here. There is a drainage that I'm going to show you shortly, but this is actually the place. And as you see here, Kemini, I'll briefly talk about what you see here, which is a public toilet facility. And so when you watch the viral video as we have it, you would see that the flood waters filled up to almost the roof of this public toilet, which is there. That raises the public health concern, because when you have the flood waters rise to that level, you can as well guess the impact that should have. But let me now take you inside the house proper, because when we saw that video exactly a week ago, there was a lady standing on a rooftop and was filming inside this house. This was the house, which is like a compound house. You have different people, you have different rooms, you have people of different ages who are here. Some are as old as you can think of, others are young. There were children who were trapped inside the houses. But there is the rooftop where the lady stood to take the video. So that is where you see in your shot, that is where the lady whose voice you hear in the video stood and then took the video, the shot of the household. Now, Kamini, I have one of the rescuers, one of the gentlemen who was swimming in the flood waters. In fact, what he did as well as the other ones that you see was to, go to rescue the children who were trapped inside with their parent. But even before I will talk to the gentleman, Kevin, let me show you the level at which the waters rose to. So you see from this building.
So when and smart a course or political highway. So Chairman Wontumi and finally courts no I extend the data as or the way plea negotiations deal na 30 million Exim Bank case no omguso edin hujuma e beda mase some jepene kokotis and some way edema aha e gossip politics TV so konkonsa bia e koso e political highway ne so bia no yaje atum se ye de bebre mo ha beda mase